With the last video that I've made, I discussed about the different arguments that I've encountered about style switching and explained my reasons on why I believe the system works well. This included arguments discussing the control scheme, various command inputs, different controller grips, and also weapon wheels. My initial thoughts on weapon wheels in this video was that I claimed that it should not be in Devil May Cry at all. During my first playthrough of the Switch port of Devil May Cry 3, I found it to be a little inconsistent while switching through my weapons mid-gameplay. Some of the people in the comment sections have argued against this point, saying that it could work if implemented properly. But when I saw some of the points that these people have made, I kind of carelessly dismissed them and said that Devil May Cry should not have weapon wheels is bad because it doesn't work for me 100%, basically in a nutshell, when I should have given it a second chance. And I apologize for making such a hasty conclusion. This stems from the fact that I have always hated the idea of using a menu-like system on the fly for my equipment in action games. And I didn't take in consideration that there are ways to make it better. And even looking back at my time with Devil May Cry 3 on the Switch, I've only dumped a handful amount of hours, so, I decided to go back and play around with this mechanic more. I've replayed some missions along with playing through Bloody Palace a bit, and my results were still sort of inconsistent. I got better at swapping through my equipment on the fly, but I feel that some of the blame is towards having 5 weapons on hand. In DMC3, you're allowed to take 2 weapons, 2 guns, and 1 style with you during a mission, and you can only change your equipment when you reach a divinity statue. However, for the Switch port of DMC3, it contains an extra mode for you to choose called Freestyle Mode. This forces everything onto you without any room for customizability. So now you can switch through everything that you've required, but you can't pick and choose what you want, unlike Devil May Cry 5. This even includes 2 extra styles that DMC3 had, which were Doppelganger and Quicksilver. For swapping between weapons and guns, you had to hold down the weapon swap button and control the wheel with the right analog stick. One thing about Radial Menus that is important to consider is that the more items that you put on it, the more room for error that you can have. Each weapon on the wheel represents a direction that you need to push the analog stick towards. In order to select what you want, you need to make sure that your analog stick fits within the correct angle. The more weapons that are placed on this layout, the smaller these sections become for you to point to. Because DMC3 had 5 weapons on each wheel, things can feel a little inconsistent when you're not used to it. Although, if you're able to pick and choose what you want, this could make using the Radial Menu system a lot easier because you have more room to work with when you use less equipment. Despite this mechanic existing in Devil May Cry 3, you can still swap through your weapons normally by pressing the weapon swap buttons instead of holding it, which is something that I failed to mention in my original video. Therefore, if this system existed in Devil May Cry 5, along with using the irregular full custom equipment option that allowed you to pick and choose what you want, I believe this system could work very well, and there are benefits that you can use from it, such as performing certain attack sequences that are extremely hard to do with all of your weapons swapping through them normally. Another problem that I've noted was that not having the option to point the control stick to the weapon I want before holding the weapon swap button. Doing this makes the control stick completely negated until you let go of the stick to use it again. Other games handle this differently, where you could angle the control stick while it's still being held in a direction and it will register an input. But I find Ratchet and Clank Deadlock to handle this the best, because you can point in the direction that you want to go, and when you bring up the menu, it will go to that weapon automatically. This was genius. If this existed in DMC5, I would actually like that option. This means that you no longer have to wait until the menu is up in order to move the analog stick to select what you want. This is perfect because that means if you know what weapon that you want to select, you can hold the stick towards that direction first and then press and hold the weapon swap button and it will automatically select that weapon. So you don't have to fumble between holding down the weapon swap button and then immediately using the control stick, which takes even more time. Man, I should have not been such a dummy to completely ignore this mechanic, because it can be very useful if done right. And there's always ways of making it better, as I've discussed in the video. So again, I am so sorry on being stubborn about it. My only hope is that if a weapon wheel was ever present in Devil May Cry again, it would behave just like how it did in Ratchet Deadlocked. Except for no pause, of course. I don't want to pause at all. And then on top of that, I would at least like an option to either enable it or disable it, just in case if I don't like it. Anyway, thank you again for listening to me ramble on about this particular topic. And if you know any other games with other weapon wheel systems, let me know in the comment section so I can just check them out sometime. And as usual, I will see you guys next time, and have a great day.